The word in the street is that Hillary Clinton is advising Elizabeth Warren. Is it paying off? Well, there is some good polling data from CBS for Elizabeth Warren. Joe Biden, he's just coasting along. And Bernie Sanders says, I want a sandwich because the best way to fight the powers of New York and Washington, D.C. and New York and Washington, D.C. is in a deli with a good corned beef on rye. I'm Randall Terry. This is not Bernie Sanders. It's Voice of Resistance. It's funny to me that as the left-wing media continues to pound away on President Trump, what they are by definition doing is not giving coverage to the left-wing lunatics within their own party. I believe that that will shift as the field shakes out and the race really heats up. Once the primary season begins and you end up with two front runners, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 that have the horsepower to stay all the way through Super Tuesday, you'll see media coverage on the rise for those candidates. In the meantime, it has been reported from credible sources that Hillary is staying in touch with Elizabeth Warren. No one will admit how much they're talking. No one is saying what the content of their discussions are, but Hillary evidently has shown a little bit of favoritism by advising Elizabeth Warren. Again, these are from credible news sources, but everything is still a little bit hazy. What we do know is that CBS just came out with a poll that shows that in the 18 first states, in other words, all the primaries that go up through and including Super Tuesday, Elizabeth Warren has just inched out Joe Biden. She's at 26%, he's at 25%, Bernie Sanders is at 19%, and everyone else is in single digits. Interestingly, the way those states shake out and how each candidate is doing in each state, Joe Biden, with today's numbers, which will of course change, Joe Biden is still in the lead with the delegate counts. Now, Joe Biden is hanging right around the 24 to 25% support base in the Democrat Party, in spite of every gaffe, every misstatement of fact, mumbled words. President Trump is an existential threat. I think the word you're looking for is existential, Mr. Biden. As his eye bursts into blood, he hasn't gone down in the polls. He has not gone down. He hasn't gone up, but he hasn't gone down. He's hung right out there around the 25% mark. What we're seeing is Elizabeth Warren slowly rising. You will remember that in some of the polls a couple months ago, Kamala Harris and Mayor Pete, two of the lunatics of the left, they were both polling in double digits. Mayor Pete and Beto O'Rourke had really big numbers early on. Now Mayor Pete is around 6%. Kamala Harris is between 7 and 8%. Beto O'Rourke between 2 and 4%. And what we're seeing is that a lot of the young lunatic voters who would have thrown their support behind Kamala Harris or Mayor Pete, that they are now drifting slowly into the Elizabeth Warren camp. Here's what's interesting. Biden's numbers not shifting. And that, my friend, spells big time trouble for the Democrat Party. And here's why. The African American community is central to Democrats winning an election. You might notice that Pete Buttigieg, I believe in South Carolina, is polling at 0% among African Americans. 0. Because the African American community, by and large, still is adamantly opposed to homosexual behavior. Just adamantly opposed to it. And him being a flaming homosexual doesn't help him at all politically. It hurts him politically, especially in a state where there is such a large African American population. In other states where there are still living dinosaurs, we want to call them moderate Democrats. All right? And these would be blue-collar Catholic Democrats, old school Baptist Southern Dixiecrats, as they're called. there's still some party loyalty in their blood. They're still registered as Democrats. So they're getting the calls from the polling company. Many of these people voted for Trump. Many of them, the ones that are older, voted for President Reagan. Okay? And they are not afraid to stay registered as Democrats, but to walk into the voting booth and to pull the lever for a Republican. So Biden's stability should actually be frightening to Elizabeth Warren and to the left-wing lunatics, because it says that there are a group of old school, somewhat moderate Democrats who don't want the Green New Deal, who don't want baby killing up till the day of birth, who don't want gun buybacks, gun confiscation, who don't want socialism, who don't want universal health care, including for illegal immigrants. They don't want these things. They're still Democrats. They're still getting the calls. And the best thing at their disposal is Biden. Because of all of the crazies that are running in the Democrat Party, Joe Biden appears to be the least crazy. And what do you think is going to happen if Biden does not win the nomination? Those people, those 25% of the Democrats right now that are just holding firm with Uncle Joe, many of them are not going to go to the winner of the Democrat primary if it is not Biden. They're going to either not show up or they're going to vote for President Trump. I've got to take a break. There's all kinds of crazy voting, electoral things all over the world going on. Russia, England, Israel. Man, oh man. There's rumblings coming. How it's all going to shake down, some of that depends upon you and I, both in our actions and our pleadings with the Almighty to bring this nation and this world back towards Him. Please don't go away. Introducing Roxy Guitar. If you're a guitar or bass player, whether you play acoustic or electric, check out Roxy Guitar. I've been playing for over 40 years and seen guitar stores all over America. I've never seen a store like Roxy Guitar. Roxy Guitar has over 700 guitars in stock, over 1,500 pedals, over 200 amps. For the beginner or price-conscious buyer, there's Michael Kelly guitars. For the serious player or professional, Roxy Guitar has the finest selection of guitar lines I've ever seen. You know I love Warrior guitars. Roxy Guitar has over 100 Warriors in stock. They have Heritage, G&L, Gretsch, John Sears, BC Rich, Duesenberg, Dean, legendary guitars at great prices, including pre-owned Gibsons, Fenders, and more. Let them know you heard about Roxy Guitar from Randall Terry and receive 10% or more off your purchase on select items. Go to roxyguitar.com. Before we touch on the international scene, let's look at domestic politics just a little bit longer. Former South Carolina governor, Republican, Mark Sanford, he was the U.S. House member, if my memory is correct, who yelled out to Obama, "You're lying," during one of President Obama's speeches and then was forced to apologize. He then became the governor of South Carolina and left that office in the midst of scandal. He is now running for president against President Trump. That would make him the third behind Joe Walsh and former Governor Weld from Massachusetts. Weld is a left-wing lunatic, a God-hater, and Walsh is in it for, we'll find out. And now, former North Carolina Congressman and Governor Mark Sanford says that he is going to have a discussion about what it really means to be a Republican and getting the Republican Party back on track. I would submit to you, I heard a talk show host ask, when did the Republican Party get off track? I'm listening in the radio, and I said, with George Bush the Elder. And after a long pause, the talk show host said, at the end of the Reagan era. And that is the truth. That is when the Republican Party quietly, steadily, self-consciously, and I'm talking about the money people, I'm talking about the pollsters, I'm talking about the party hacks who didn't like President Reagan's strident anti-Soviet, anti-socialist, anti-government help, pro-life, anti-baby killing agenda. Now, President Reagan retired as too much of a hero for them to have gone after him blatantly. But during the Bush the Elder era, they were able to start to take the Republican Party back to the left. Under Clinton, it continued to go to the left. When Newt Gingrich won in '94, he was bludgeoned and browbeaten in many ways, and in some ways still did not reflect the hardcore pro-life agenda, anti-Planned Parenthood agenda of President Reagan. But the simple fact of the matter is that President Trump behaves more like a Reagan Republican than anybody we've seen in national politics since 1988. And I had the privilege of casting my first vote for President Reagan in 1980. I've been following this stuff seriously since 1980. And I'm telling you that Mark Sanford's desire to have a discussion about what it means to be a Republican is, in fact, fallacious. And what he should be admitting is that the Republican Party has gotten way off track. President Trump does not represent that the Republican Party has gotten off track. It represents that there were rank and file people inside of the Republican Party, such as yours truly, who had had it with the elitist, sometimes godless, sometimes pro-abortion, pro-baby killing, pro-homosexual elite inside the Washington, D.C. Beltway, inside of the New York City, Washington, D.C. establishment, who wanted the Republican Party to be the Democrat light party. They're the Democrats, we're the Democrat light. They're socialists, we're socialism light. They're baby killers, and we say we're pro-life, but then we vote along with them after we win an election. That's what has been happening since President Reagan. And President Trump, God bless him, put a stop to it and exposed the level of treachery, the number of Judases and Benedict Arnolds and people who want form above substance. Because at the end of the day, you might not like that President Trump tweets a lot. You might not like his hairdo. You might not like his bombastic New York style. But on policies, because we are electing him to be a president regarding policy. We're not electing him to be our brother-in-law or our pastor, right? I wouldn't want him as a pastor, wouldn't want him as a brother-in-law. Well, I know that, I might be lying. I don't have a sister, but if I did, no, I really wouldn't want him as a brother-in-law. No. So, for my sister's sake, but as a president, I'll take him, I'll stand with him, I'll fight for him, I will defend him, because the presidency is about policy. That's what it's about. Now you tell me, if you're a never Trumper, or you're one of the people that are getting a little nervous and shaky about the president's tweets and about his bombastic nature and any number of things, you tell me what policies you disagree with. Not how he presents it. I didn't say that. What policies do you disagree with? And if you agree with the policies, then it behooves us that we not whine, but that we win. That we not equivocate, but that we fight and we defend him and the policies that we elected him to execute. I'm about to take a break. I promise there'll be more if you'll stay with me. Don't go away.
I also want to speak tonight directly to Muslims throughout the world. We respect your faith. Its teachings are good and peaceful. And those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah.
We have reaffirmed again and again that the United States is not and never will be at war with Islam. Islam teaches peace.
Islam is a religion of peace. They are not Muslims, they are monsters.
We've been told that Muslim terrorists have hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam. But Islamic art and literature tell a very different story. To know the truth, we only have to study the narrative of the founder of Islam, Muhammad, in his own words. Most Americans, myself included, we don't follow international politics as they relate to other countries' internal affairs. England, some of us will follow Israel because there's such a pro-Israel, strong pro-Israel faction in America. But there are a lot of shakings going on. Boris Johnson is now the prime minister after Prime Minister May had to leave office. There is still not a deal for Brexit, England leaving the European Union. And the parliament just passed a law that if there is no official deal, that they would not be allowed to leave. He's saying we're going to make it happen. His own brother, his younger brother who was in the government, resigned, saying that he had to put country policy ahead of his family relationships. So this is a big, embarrassing quarrel happening with the Prime Minister of England. And we don't know. I mean, England, the people of England spoke. They want out of the European Union. We'll see whether or not they can pull it off. In Russia, Vladimir Putin's party just lost a third of its seats in a large regional election, all right? And this shows, according to some prognosticators, backlash against Putin for some of his crackdowns. And there have been a lot of protests going on in Russia, in Moscow, protesting President Putin's tightening down of some of the liberties that were won when the Russian people, starting with Boris Yeltsin, toppled communism and broke up the Soviet Union. In Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who won his election in April, just 5 months ago, he has been unable to put together a coalition government. Their government doesn't work the way ours do. They have to go to the different party people and get a governing majority inside of their parliament. He has not been able to do it. So he said, fine, let's have another election. And they're having another election within the next month in Israel. This is crazy. And if he loses, he is a great ally to the United States, and he understands the threat of Islamic terrorism. So I don't know what's going to happen in these areas, but it's been my observation since the election of President Trump, but even a little bit before, the media in America doesn't want to cover what's happening in France or in Germany with the rise of these fiercely independent nationalist parties that don't want immigration, that feel the threat of the Islamic militants that are flooding their country and are often involved in the catastrophic rise in the rape of non-Muslim women. We see people in England saying, we're done with your one-worldism. And the American press doesn't want to cover that because that's the same spirit and that's the same attitude that helped bring President Trump to the White House. President of Brazil, on record saying that homosexuality is a sin, a devout Christian Roman Catholic who is making the baby-killing homosexual leaders freak out because of his stridence. He's not apologizing. And he's saying he loves President Trump. So these various electoral earthquakes that are happening around the world show something is going on with rank and file voters like you and I, that the elitist press and their friends in the elitist political power structures of both major parties in America, they don't want people knowing this stuff. They don't want us studying our French or our German or our English counterparts because they want to get back to business as usual. One worldism, free trade for everybody, open borders, Islam is fine, Christians are bad, baby killing is a fundamental right, homosexual marriage is something that expresses love between two people. They want their godless agenda. And I think if a lot of us understood the level of calamity that is going on around the world with various governments, we would recognize that maybe the Lord, maybe there's a miracle in progress. Maybe the Lord is hearing our prayers and he's stirring up righteous men and women to fight. I don't know. I'm going to take a quick break and then I will update you on our travel schedule. Some of you might be watching and actually join us. Don't go away. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, "I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life." Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, "What Would Mohammed Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced." Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Introducing Roxy Guitar. If you're a guitar or bass player, whether you play acoustic or electric, check out Roxy Guitar. I've been playing for over 40 years and seen guitar stores all over America. I've never seen a store like Roxy Guitar. Roxy Guitar has over 700 guitars in stock, over 1,500 pedals, over 200 amps. For the beginner or price-conscious buyer, there's Michael Kelly guitars. For the serious player or professional, Roxy Guitar has the finest selection of guitar lines I've ever seen. You know I love Warrior guitars. Roxy Guitar has over 100 Warriors in stock. They have Heritage, G&L, Gretsch, John Sears, BC Rich, Duesenberg, Dean, legendary guitars at great prices, including pre-owned Gibsons, Fenders, and more. Let them know you heard about Roxy Guitar from Randall Terry and receive 10% or more off your purchase on select items. Go to roxyguitar.com. Welcome back, friend. Most of you who are regulars, probably all of you who are regulars, know that I am an activist. I am a Christian leader. I fight in the political realm, in the culture wars, utilizing the media, press coverage, demonstrations, rallies, all the above and then some, running for political office. We are taking our next trip. We will be leaving literally this afternoon. We will be going to Texarkana tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. We will be at the historic post office in Texarkana that is literally built on the state border between Arkansas and Texas. You can stand and have one foot in each state. If you can join us, please do. We will be at the post office from 9:30 to 10:30. We will then be playing music in a church that night in Texarkana. And then after church, we head down to Houston, where we are going to spend all day Thursday at the venue where the Democrats are holding their debate. And we have 3 new songs that we are introducing. Dems got that mojo working, but it just won't work on me. We've got one by special request called The Squad to deal with Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ocasio-Cortez. And we have a third one. What's that third one called? The Squad. Oh, I can't remember. We're going to do Trump's Going to Thump Them. We're going to do CNN Sucks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, the other one is I Want to Be a Democrat because I want free stuff. So if you can join us, please do. In Houston on Thursday, Texarkana on Wednesday. I ask you for your prayers. And I ask you, for those of you who believe in what we're doing, some people have said, why are you taking your sons on these trips? Because I'm trying to teach them to stand for righteousness and justice. Right now, America is awash with teenagers and college-age kids whose minds are being slowly poisoned by godless left-wing media, propagandists in schools, colleges. I'm trying to teach my sons to stand for what's right. If you believe in what we're doing, please go to my website, randallterry.com, and make a contribution. As of today, we have raised 1/3 of the money that we need to take this trip. We need about $3,000 to $3,500 for hotels, food, gas. It's cheap when you consider that we're going to go over 1,200 miles. We've raised about $1,100. If you can give $100 or $500, we need your help. Please go to randallterry.com and contribute. Pray for us. God bless you.